Now on BBC One, with an update on tonight's developments in the Crimewatch studio, we return to Sue Cook and Nick Ross.
Hello, welcome back. A lot's been happening. On the dreadful attack on Bill Gallagher, police have gone out to speak to a new witness, and that's one of several new leads on that inquiry. Very disappointing results, frankly, on the murder of Sharon Harper, but a huge number of calls on the robbery in Stratford upon Avon, and in Photocall a lot of good leads, including 20 people giving the same name on one case.
Right, well, first of all, shortly after 9:30 in the morning on Wednesday the 22nd of June, a courier was delivering a package to a jeweller's shop in Stratford High Street.
Down! Everybody down!
A substantial amount of jewellery was stolen, and a substantial amount of calls have actually come through to the studio here, and another substantial amount to the incident room, hundreds of them. So you've had a lot of information to go through. Anything significant, Mr. Stanley?
Well, we've had over 350 calls, I think, here and at Stratford. I think we can say now that we've established that Veenendaal is a village in Holland, and that the jacket was probably Dutch Army issue. Yeah. So thank you for all those ringing in. We don't want any more information on that.
Right. Now what about the getaway car, the Cosworth and the Mondeo?
Yes, we've had two calls concerning the Cosworth as to where it's been about 2 months ago, but we still want more calls from people who have seen that car on the registration plate, which we quoted earlier, from Northampton.
Right, and they transferred from that to the Mondeo. So somebody might have seen them together.
That's right, yes. We've had no real calls of significance concerning the Mondeo. We'd still like to know whose vehicle that was, who was driving it on the day.
Any news on all those watches that were stolen?
We've had a lot of calls from people all over the country who've been offered watches, apparently appearing to be Rolex, at knockdown prices, yes.
Right, well, the Manchester area is what you're interested in. Let's hope you continue to get more calls and more information. Nick, thank you.
Frustrating sometimes on Update, because if you've got good leads, you can't always go into them in detail. But Jackie, quite a lot's been happening in Photocall. One case, as I mentioned, you've got 20 people giving the same name.
Yeah, tremendous. I mean, for the first Photocall of the series, we couldn't ask for a better response. First, the case, the Cambridge credit card force, a lot of calls giving the same name, so we're very hopeful of that. And Yvonne Mary Sullivan, we wanted to speak to her about some deceptions in Gwent. 14 calls to the studio and a couple to the station, and sightings mainly in the Birmingham area, which is very helpful because that does fit in with what the officers knew, and Newport, and a connection with Jamaica, which fits in with what they knew as well.
Bristol Post Office raids?
14 calls, 3 sightings of 1 man in the Liverpool area, and in fact, just as I came up, we've had one very good call the officers are very excited about, but I'll perhaps say more next month.
OK, and Brian Saunders?
20 calls. 3 callers have given different names that he may be using now, which is going to give the officers something to go on, obviously. So, again, good news.
Thank you very much.
Detective Superintendent Bill Mellish here and his colleagues have been inundated over the past hour with calls from viewers offering information in the hope of tracing the man who badly injured 84-year-old Bill Gallagher in Deptford in south-east London. Bill's a market trader. Despite his age, he'd still been running his fruit and veg stall on Saturdays. Late in the afternoon of Monday, August the 15th, a 13-year-old boy found Mr. Gallagher lying in the hall of the block of flats where he lives. Well, Bill has been unconscious in hospital ever since then. His condition has improved a little bit and he is out of intensive care, so we're hoping for the best on that. You've had a lot of calls.
Over 80 calls so far, a lot about the T-shirt. About half a dozen names been put up, which could be quite interesting. What I wanted to emphasise in this appeal for a name for this suspect is that this robber wore a blue T-shirt, blue baggy shorts. He was very suntan, a very suntan face and legs. He's about 30, he's white, very tall, about 6 foot odd, short brown hair.
And you're pretty convinced on where he comes from?
I'm pretty sure he's a South East London person, and I'm appealing to people in South East London to provide us with a name of this suspect.
Right, if anybody knows anybody who looks like that Or you have a possible new witness as well.
That's right, the chaps have gone out to Brockley to see a witness this evening. Could be interesting. They certainly wouldn't go out this time of night if it wasn't interesting.
Right, we'll keep you posted, thanks.
Out of that series of attempted abductions, partly in Leeds and others in Bristol, 2 women in Bristol posing as health visitors had threatened to take away children, and there have been 8 reported cases in the area within a month. You've got a huge volume of calls.
Yes, we've had in excess of 85 calls, a very, very good response from all over the country confirming our worst nightmares.
Which are?
Which are that these incidents are happening throughout, well, nationwide. I'm particularly interested, however, to appeal to people in the southwest in particular to try and come forward with a name of the person that we wish to trace in connection with our inquiry.
You've got 2 very, very good descriptions. Quickly remind us of them.
We have the woman, 25 to 35, with the dark spiky hair, and we have the other one with the bob-style haircut, slightly older, with a necklace with the M on the front. I would appeal to any member of the public, please, if you have any suspicions at all, please come forward. We need to trace these women before they actually do carry out and take a child.
OK, so those are the women that we need to hear about, and for heaven's sake, if anybody has tried to take your child away, please call us or call your police. And we have got advice from the social workers and from health visitors. Under no circumstances should anybody come to your door and ask to take your child away or medically examine them under the sort of circumstances that should leave you in any way suspicious. If you are suspicious, call the police.
Well, we're working through calls on all 4 of our incident desk cases, but David, what's in particular on the armed robbery in Nottinghamshire? We had some handwriting we hope people might recognise.
Yes, we're delighted with the response we've had to that. We've had a couple of calls suggesting names for those e-fits that we showed of the robbers, and also suggesting links to the handwriting. Remember, that was shown on the back of a plan that was left behind of the premises, and it contains directions on how to find the premises. So those clues, if you recognise any of those, there's a substantial reward there, so please give us a call.
And the other case I mentioned earlier was the teenager in Yeovil who's been carrying out sexual assaults in the area over the last couple of months. Yes,
dreadful case. We've had 6 calls, a couple of them suggesting names that fit that artist's impression that we showed. And the description, to remind you again, was a teenager, about 15 years, 5'5" and well-spoken. Who knows, the names we've suggested may be the answer, but if you think you have it, please still call us.
David, thank you.
Sharon Harper was 21 when she was murdered. She was seen just after midnight walking home from the pub where she worked.
Are you all right?
Just on hold just for a second. Put that on hold just for a second. Just going to have to ask Mr. Clifton, who's taking a call here, just to put it on hold for a second.
Can I just put you on hold for a second?
While he does so, let me just tell you on this, it's been very, very disappointing, hasn't it?
It has indeed, yes, very disappointing.
The one thing that you wanted most of all was a witness who was probably the last person to see her alive. He hasn't called.
He hasn't called at the moment, no.
Now, he was the chap who rang and said he'd seen her having an argument with a man after midnight on that Friday night, Saturday morning.
Yes, indeed. He was the man that we hoped may hold the key to this. He was the man that rang on 2 occasions and said that he'd seen her arguing with a man that we believe is probably the murderer. We hoped that he would ring in tonight, but he hasn't done so yet.
Maybe he's told other people of this account.
I hope that he has, and if so, those other people really ought to be in touch with us, because it's very important that we actually get to trace this man. He is the last person that saw Sharon Harper alive.
All right, rather disappointing. Mr. Clifton, thank you.
Well, that's it for this evening. Thank you very much indeed for calling, if you did. And if you're hesitating about whether to call or not, I can only say please do. These are unusual crimes, but they are serious ones, and they need your help. There are just a few minutes left now to call before the lines close here, and you'll see a list of the incident room numbers in just a moment on the screen.
And let's make the sort of crimes that we've seen tonight even rarer. Don't have nightmares. Do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.